your time at Chaney, what are some of the memorable times, from a coaching standpoint, being with Ron? Um, y- y- we've always talked about the legacy of Chaney and the imprint it's left on people. What's kind of, you know, having the opportunity to be the head coach? I think you said for head baseball coach for
13,
14 years.
Yeah.
Um,
Probably before I lose this thought, because as soon as you said it, the wins are all great. I mean, you share them with the kids, the championships, the playoff runs, the undefeated seasons. Those are just getting embedded in your brain, and you'll never forget them. And you see those guys, and that's a bond that gets you together. But more importantly, like to me, what the time there was, number one, being at your alma mater and having that school have success and more success and even grow and get a good reputation in the area, because you want to pound your chest and stick your chest out, because that's where you went, and that's what you bled in that red and gray. But and Ron will attest to this. My kids had a great experience. Okay, our kids grew up together at doubles. You know what I mean? My wife, that was the only thing I think she let me keep coaching was because I took them all with me. But they developed they had fun, like around the dinner table, which was usually pretty late if it was, after a day of doubles, you weren't eating at your normal hour. But, today we were, hiding in the auditorium, and, Stephanie and Celeste took all the ice out of the ice machine. I mean, and Anthony got yelled at for it. It was like, our kids just kind of grew up, around really good football player. I mean, it's good kids that were football players. And there's some things embedded in their brain that I wish they'd forget from being in Chaney all the time. Yeah. But they used to coin, hey, we're gonna have winter's pizza tonight. Like that was always just cool stuff that my kids got to experience and develop good friends out of it. I mean, Anthony and Danny and Michael probably get together and they would remember something like right now that happened. Sure. And they're all grown men with kids now. And that in the coaching staff, there was a reason why we stayed together, the core of us, for a long time there.
Sure.
And you had some pieces change here and there because life changes, but those are the really special times. You just don't have that anymore. When I left, and there was turnover at places that I was at, and and we kind of, it was being at Chaney was a lot like the latter years at Ursuline, because we were kind of on our own as a football program. Sometimes everybody wasn't in our corner, and at Ursuline, Dick ended up getting laid off as a teacher like the last couple of years. And I remember this Eddie Handel's brother had Angle Fighting Irish shirts made instead of Ursuline because it was like we were on our own. But like at Chaney, it was kind of like the Gridiron Club. Us coaches, we had to stay tight, especially early when we were struggling. Like we got to lean on each other because
absolutely.
We were getting letters that like we should all be fired Monday morning after the Fitch game or the Boardman game or something early
for wearing shorts.
And to this day, I'll never wear long or short pants again.
I
in a game, I didn't.
I never wore them, and whatever.
My son, like, he goes, "Are you Dad? You still holding on?" I go, "I'm just telling you. I'm telling you how that just affects you." But the coaches and the my kids growing up and the experience they had, and those are the things that made it really special. The games always do, but things that because they changed my life, the kids' lives. They saw how hard work paid off. How you dealt with some disappointment. I mean, my kids they weren't stupid. They saw us with 38 kids playing Columbus DeSalle with 38 seniors, and probably should have won the game, but it just didn't work out.
Yeah.
Like just how hard work, and Bill Bugsiewicz blocking a kid that's going to Michigan State, the defensive player of the year, because he's 106, just playing his tail off. I mean, just as an example, and I got them filling a 1-yard gap because they're running veer, and Bugs, you got to fill that gap. I mean, just he was 160 going two ways, and we're playing them to the wall, but our kids just saw how our players bought in to something, committed to something. We're tough. I hope it helped them as young men, as young ladies, as students in the classroom, and then in the athletics that they were involved in. It all made them a little better, committed, tougher person. Brought a little bit of the West Side to them wherever they went. Those are things that that really stick with me. The coaches, just a lot, still friends. I mean, for us, we try to get together as much as you can. Life gets in the way sometimes, but still contact, and between Z and Dan Cipriano and the Gesslers, just off the top of my head, Nick and so on.
I'm guessing those late night kickball games in the backyard,
with football,
produced
kickball.
A lot of memories.
Yeah, there's kids just playing. Yeah, those are things that really stick with you, because that doesn't happen.
No, I remember, and I forget when it would have been, but it was kind of early on. I remember Bear, Danny, and Stephanie, and everybody coming, and Anthony specifically. Those three guys, like, they would set up games with the other team's ball boys. and it was like,
aware is a great thing. I asked my son, like, he was getting older, and I would talk to the defense, and Ron would talk, or I would go up to the press box. Hey, how was Ron's pregame? Or at halftime, what did Ron have to say? Maybe I started. He goes, I don't know. I was in the locker room. He goes, I was playing football outside. We're 9-0. We went undefeated this year against the ball boys from everybody.
Yeah.
I was like, I had my head kind of, oh God! I thought you were in there hanging on every word, like the coaches were saying.
Well, and again, I think all that goes back to what we talked about last week in program, is the family component, and if you're going to teach family, and preach family, you got to live it, and I think that we all did a great job at doing that.
Yeah, we didn't alienate our kids. They made them be part of that.
Mm-hmm.
And the younger coaches hopefully saw that too, and that helped them have their kids be involved if their kids wanted to be. I mean, it wasn't like I made my kids come up in the morning. First off, Fred Rohrer, was that the right how you pronounce his name? It was the biggest reason why Danny wanted to be at every practice, because he would wait for the truck to come around, the trailer to come into the parking lot. What's for lunch today? But that was neat, that they remembered that, and that those are things that they would do. Like Winter's Pizza, he'd sit on that old taping table. I want to say, you're getting 9,000 diseases sitting on that carpet.
Yeah, that's a fact.
And wait for the pizza to be delivered. The Winter's Pizza was coming, and on a Friday after a game, or a Thursday or a Saturday afternoon, depending on when the City Series wanted to play our games. But those are things you just don't occur. Number one, when I went somewhere else, when I went to Boardman, my kids were older,
Sure.
So that was a different experience. But
and how was that different? I don't know. I guess for me personally, the thing you learn is, I had the opportunity to have this great experience. Unfortunately, it was kind of that first one, and maybe you don't realize it until after. But what did going somewhere else, seeing something different, how did that impact what you experienced at Chaney?
Well, the great thing is, my Ursuline experience coming to Chaney, it was very similar.
Yeah.
Dick was a lot like Ron was in what he expected of his kids, and being tough, and we're going to run the football and play good defense, and that was his philosophy. Kids weren't running the institution type, those were the expectations. So that was an easy transition, because I knew that's how it was going to be back at Chaney. So it just helped me get better at it, being at Ursuline. when I had an opportunity to coach my kids at Boardman and get a chance to coach with DJ Ogilvy there, DJ was struggling, early on. I came in his third year, and he had really like 0 for and 1-9, 0 and 10 his first two, and was always picking my brain to what we were doing, what we did at Chaney, and how would you guys deal with this, and how was your off season, and how did you treat this situation, which made me feel good that he recognized and embraced what we did to have the success where we were at, and he wanted, some ideas to help him out in their program or at our program at that time. So I knew we were doing the right things that were being recognized. So it was kind of like all three places were pretty similar.
Mm-hmm.
DJ was a tough weight room guy, wanted to run the ball, play good defense. I remember him when I did finally take my first year there, I did not do defense. Jack Kenny was defensive coordinator, and I was just coaching the off end, which was like an outside linebacker there for him. And then the next year, DJ wanted to make some changes, and kind of wasn't in the package to change, and so he kind of went a whole different direction said, hey, I'd like you to take the D, and wanted us to be a 4D team. But it was the same, and he kind of, all I want you to do is make sure the kids play with enthusiasm, run to the ball, and wrong arm the kick out instead of hard join it. That's all. I said, we can do that. If we got a spill player, we can do that. So like I had three places that everything was pretty much the same, and that made it easy. Playing at Chaney, being there in '80, taking a little bit of that to Ursuline, really because my eyes were going to get opened at Ursuline because that was my first real varsity experience. Yeah. It was very similar to what I had left, and then coming back to Chaney, then for 17 years, just we're doing it this way, and then that was what all I knew, and then so and having Boardman open to DJ open to some ideas and things that we did that we had success with. It was good.
Did you feel like, I think one of the things that I reflect on is how close the staff was. I mean, obviously relationship with kids is always there. Did you ever feel like even, at your travels, did you feel like that always happens, or was that something unique to Chaney? Or
no, it was unique at Chaney. That's what I said. Look, my kids being involved in this, and the staff made that special. And am I biased because I went there? Probably a little bit, and half the whole staff for the most part was graduates, so that made it. Everybody had that
Mm-hmm.
vested interest that wanted to see their alma mater do well. But it never. And I remember Bill Miller, because then when Bill went on his up in Salem,
yeah.
and then started helping at Springfield, and I said, Bill, how is he? He goes, but it's not the same. He couldn't get it. He couldn't get it the same at Salem to the way he would have liked it to have been the way we had it. Springfield was different. He's in a different role, but Springfield's close to what we're doing. That's what's kind of neat. We're a little older staff, and really committed to being tough and physical with kids, and that's how Guerrero is, and it's fun being with Bill because we both have the same kind of philosophy. He hasn't changed much from what we did at Chaney. He's just trying to incorporate that there. So that was a good move, for me. Getting somewhere a little bit familiar and having a familiar face, and I'm like grandpa coach though there. Which, well, I am grandpa. When the kids say that, I go, I am a grandpa.
So one question I kind of have, and we can kind of kick it to Ron a little bit here, or wrap it up. I guess for me, one of the things that I kind of wonder is, you were always very kind of black and white, rules, no rules. You followed them or you didn't. You know what I mean? Like there was always that edge to you, and.
Are you saying it was a dictatorship?
No. I mean, I Ron's talked about it. I think you always need those different personalities on the staff, right?
Yeah.
What do you? That's not kids today. That's not society.
Oh, no,
How have you evolved to kind of navigate that?
Well, you had to learn that there has to be some gray area at some points. You know what I mean? I think that's what I figured out because kids were just different.
Yeah.
And I was expecting kids to do what I knew all my life, and I didn't know their backgrounds. And when I went to some different places to coach, and I knew I can go to him, and he would have my back, and I'd have his back, and I didn't need to say, Ron, how should I handle this situation? I knew this kid needed to know this is what you're expected to do, and that's how we're doing it, you know. And he would back me on that. Whereas I didn't know that at other places, so you have to be a little more flexible and accepting of what's going on, and kind of find out, hey, okay, how much we, you know, kind of let this kid go, or do we let things slide, you know, at certain places, and but because you can do that. I mean, that's how we raised. That's how we developed the culture of change. That's just how this is what we're doing. Okay, either with us or against us. You know, we can't have you. I'm kind of in, 1 foot in, 1 foot out. You know, we're not going to get to where we want to go if we're not on the same page. And there's more than one way to skin a cat, I guess, down the road as you get older, because kids want to know. They did it because we said to do it. Now they want to know. Okay, I'll do this, but why? How is this going to make me a better player? Or why am I running 90-40? It would have been hard to say why.
Yeah.
Because we're trying to make it tougher, you know what I mean? But because kids are changing. They want an explanation. They want to know. And you shouldn't, and back then you didn't have to tell them why. Because I said so. Like your dad would say, because I said so. That's why.
Yeah, I'm guessing because I said so isn't working today.
No, that ain't going to happen. No. But I don't know if that kind of answered that question, if we got off.
No,
on a tangent
I mean, you know,
to throw it to Ron, but that's how I went. Wherever I went, that's how I was. And that made it hard because you weren't necessarily always liked, you know. Like, you know, you're not letting me express myself, you know what I mean? Kids have to express themselves now.
But I think
and that's not that it's a bad thing, but
no, right. And I think you both would attest to this, that, you know, the follow-up that you get from kids today that you had in the past, you know, has been extremely above the 75% percentage is being positive. I mean, you know, how much negative have you gotten from people that you were coaching in the past? I mean, I from a personal standpoint, I can tell you that very rarely, if at all, does anybody come and say, hey, remember what you did? Although there might...
Some of them just don't want to approach me because I ain't going to have anything good to say, so I'm not going to approach you as a kid.
And that may well be, but all in all, I mean, the fallback has been extremely positive.
Well, but I've had kids that actually go, Coach, you know, I really didn't like you then, but now I understood what you were trying to do or what you meant, you know. At that time, I thought you were just picking on me if you were just, you know. And I've had that. You know, if kids come up that way and said, I just didn't quite understand. As I got a little bit older, I see now that I'm a parent, or now that, you know, what situation made them have to have a different decision.
Yeah, and I think, you know, your conversation, your comment, both of the comments is, you know, the feedback that you get talking to young men that played for you, and now you're talking to the man, they do appreciate. And the reflection is they take a lot of those lessons that were taught and they apply them to whatever profession they're in now, and that enables them to be successful. You know, and here's a flip side for both of you to think about. You know, I came under both of your tutelages as, you know, I was playing down YSU. I'm not. I get into the coaching opportunity, so I'm being molded by you guys. So just like the kids, there was a lot of pressure on me that I felt to perform because I was surrounded by a lot of what I perceived as excellent coaches, and that was difficult. But that fire is what refines you.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
It drives you, yeah.
Right. And so to your point, you know, you got me into this coaching thing. Well, everything that I've ever gotten in life was through athletics, whether it was playing or whether it's coaching. And so I certainly would not have done anything that I've done had it not been for, you know, that opportunity. So is pressure bad? No, it's tough and it sucks in the moment.
And I think that's a problem in this day and age. I think the kids get protected and coddled a little too much, and they have trouble when it gets a little pressure packed, you know, of dealing with some things. But
I mean,
that's getting back to like, no, I'm not apologizing for getting you in the coaching because I think it makes your skin a little bit thicker.
There's something to be said about, you know, Vince Lombardi being, you know, treating all his players the same as like dogs. You know, and I'm not throwing that out there.
Right.
All I'm saying is, you know, I mean, face it, we've obviously had some kids that were you know, All-Americans, you know.
Sure.
And that became All-Americans. Did we treat them differently? You know, consciously you probably we're going to sit back and say, no, everybody was treated the same. But probably not. But they had to adhere to the same rules that everybody else did.
They weren't sitting on the side, you know, having coffee and donuts and whoever was working because you're the good
and
guy.
Isn't that the
or
result?
you don't play D because you're good on O. No, you're a football player.
Yeah,
and if you
isn't
can help
that the
us,
result
you
of
play, you know?
them turning out the way they turned out is because they didn't get any extra
preferential treatment out of any sort.
You know, I mean, I think that's maybe overplayed a lot of times. You know that you know that kid was a star and he got special treatment. You know, I don't know about that. At least that's my thoughts. I don't think that we gave Brad Smith, Anthony Floyd, Keelan Dykes,
Antoine, any of them guys
you know,
were
any more
Aaron,
attention
Thompson.
than Robert Wolf.
Yeah.
Well, and you know, there's always been something that you told me many years ago that has stuck with me as a head coach, as a principal, as a superintendent, and it was, you know, it's easy to ask one of your All-Americans what they think about you. You know, I want to know how the kid who never played it down, when they're done, how they feel about me.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think that is certainly you have relationships with guys that are just different. And whether they're a great player or not a great player, you always connect with different kids, and maybe there's a close one and it's special. And that's just one of those things. But you know, I think sometimes we get caught in a situation where we have to create a boogeyman or something for maybe when I didn't have a great experience, so it's got to be somebody else's fault.
You're 100% right. The bottom line is this. All in all, I think if you know you got players like you said that maybe never lined up as far as getting in actual, you know, the heat of battle. And then you got players that have gone on to be All-Americans.
It went on in the coaching ranks and just have continued to just amaze you.
Correct.
You know, I mean, yeah.
And I think if you, I'm confident that if you ask any of them, they're going to say it was a great experience. I mean, it was a great experience, and that's a testimony to guys like yourselves, and you know, all the coaches that we've had, and all the players that we've had. It was just a positive experience.
It was, and I want to reiterate, like, you know, I remember a time when we were doing goal line or something, and somebody didn't block down, and I was coaching the tackles. I think it was my first year, and you asked the tackle who you're supposed to get, and you pointed.
The
And he pointed. Go ahead, finish it.
It gives you that universal.
The
That guy.
The universal sign
universal
for I don't know.
I don't know.
Universal sign
I got
for
him.
I don't know.
I got them.
It's
No,
yeah.
tell me I have the Mike backer or the
Right,
Sam or
right.
the Will or the
But like, personally, you internalize that, and I think it wasn't just putting pressure on kids, and that even almost sounds like offensive to say that, but it wasn't just, hey, if you want to be part of this, these are the expectations, this is the level that we're going to perform at as a player. Oh, and by the way, as a coach, and you want to be part of this, you better step your game up. And so it wasn't just like the good old boys club picking on the kids.
Yeah.
It was peers saying, all of us need to get the job done. And I think that was, for me, something that I took and still take, that was imprinted by my family, but also reinforced by great mentors and men. And to your point, both your points, I think that all those guys would say that. Your players.
You'd hope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'd hope.
Ron, do you want to kind of say anything here, or you got thoughts, or?
Just then, I mean, I think Mike knows how I feel about him, and how much I believe that he contributed to our program. Okay, the program that we had over the years, and it's great to see it getting back to where it was. I mean, again, we've shouted out to the success that they've had this year, and Coach Antrim has done a phenomenal job. But it's guys like I said, it's guys like yourself and all the other guys, the Mikoviches and the Millers and the Ciprianos and the Zelinskis and I don't want to.
I hate
say
I
names
started
because
mentioning. I don't want to forget anybody.
You forget somebody, but that's what has made this thing such a special memory and a tradition that's being revived and carried on today.
Circling back to your first comment, Pope, I just want to thank you. I remember in '98, I got the call to come coach baseball at Chaney, and I remember going to the Ursuline baseball camps that you would work with
Rocky
Coach
Ridge.
G, yeah, and getting to work with you there, and from there, you putting the word into coach freshman football, and the rest is history.
Anytime we could have steal an Ursuline kid, that didn't happen often. We were trying to do that.
yeah. Well,
But you had West Side ties in there. That was
for sure. It was.
And that made, like, when you talk about baseball, coming aboard and helping out, I mean, that was a good experience for both of us. I think, football helped the baseball program because those were good athletes and good kids that we got to come out, and they were staying competitive year round in another sports,
and I said
which
this
was
a
great.
couple of weeks ago. We never had to worry about
And
our
we
kids
were going to
when-
lift,
when-
maybe not exactly the
when
same
Pope
way.
had them. Yeah, absolutely.
But there were days the kids go, we really got to go, like the football kids were lifting Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
right.
And the
Right.
baseball kids were lifting Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday.
Yeah.
Well, do we got to go to both? I go, yeah. I'm going to both. I'll be in football Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Now, when you benched, yesterday at football, I don't expect you to come in and, be throwing 250 pounds around on bench on Tuesday again, okay? Now, we do dumbbell, lightweight bench there, okay, do push-ups instead. We would alter the workout for the football guys that ended up working really 5 days a week is what it ended up being in the weight room. And there was no question.
No,
They just
good,
expected to be there, and
it was a good marriage. It was a very good marriage.
and we were having success on the diamond, as well as we did on the gridiron, and
Yeah.
that was,
Sure.
we're winning the city and we're advancing in the playoff, the tournament in baseball and making you know, the run we did in, you know, making the playoffs for a number of years, you know, football wise. That was all good with good athletes. Yeah.
Both programs fed off.
And we got some baseball kids that come out for football that didn't play before.
Sure.
And football kids to maybe stay involved or play, you know, because we altered our whole. I mean, Rick talked about this when he was on about altering our workouts so that you didn't alienate the summer ball guys. And
Yeah.
So they were able to still work out and be part of it, and you know that helped baseball kids come out and vice versa. And that was just good. You know, that was a good experience, and you know. No pressure, like we weren't fighting each other for kids and putting kids in binds like you can't go to football, you know. No, it would be, we don't have workout, go to lifting, you know, you go to football. You should be going to do something, you know what I mean? You know, but that was all, you know, good things, positive things.
Well, I appreciate you coming on, and I know Ron does, and you know, it was neat to kind of hear just some thoughts and.
You know, I didn't know how this was going to go, and I've been watching, and you know, the other podcast with the players, and it's been really entertaining. I really appreciate what you guys are doing, kind of getting the fire going again, and the kids kind of reminiscing. And I told Dallas when I watched Rick's, I was like, well, he did an outstanding job. Remember years, dates, and kids. I go, my 60-year-old brain. I just know it happened. I'm not sure when it did, and that really helped, like set my time frame up.
Yeah.
Of, oh, it's been that long, or oh, is that when that occurred? But doing this has been really special, and it's great to see the men that evolved from the young men that we coached.
Yeah.
That you've had on, and we could do this for hours because
I know, yeah.
I didn't know how this was going to go. And
Was it as bad as you thought?
I didn't want to have to recite dates because I was going to show my senility setting in. My kids always say, Dad, no, this happened at this time. You know what I mean? But being like, when you talk about positive things out of this, and you know, besides coaches and friendships that we developed, I mean, my son went into teaching and coaching. He was an engineer. You know?
Yeah.
I go, you sure you want to make this decision?
Yeah.
But, you know, it kind of just, that's how it affected him. He wanted to do that. You know, my son Danny ended up helping out, you know, after college, coaching there as a GA for a couple of years, and is in sports medicine and exercise science. You know, I mean, staying involved in athletics and the weight program that way. That's how, talk about an effect it has on people.
Sure.
You know, and,
Absolutely.
You know, but
Well,
yeah, the great friendship. I mean, there's not anybody closer. I'm not closer to anyone around me than I am the guys I coach with at Chaney, number one, or through the years just coaching has gotten
Sure.
new friends. But never as the bond that we had. And that's like anything else. Your first girlfriend, probably, you know, your first kiss type thing. But, you know, to see us go to where we wanted to get, and, you know, that 97 team, the state championship, I mean, you know, those are special, even though they come up short. Last year, I thought we had a good shot at Springfield. I said, maybe I got a shot at getting one of these before I get out of here, you know what I mean? But I was fortunate to win a state title in baseball with Matt Giambattista at Ursuline, you know, so, hey, you know, there's only one team wins it all every year. And, you know, I texted Don Prologo today and said, you know, don't feel like you had a bad year, you know. I mean, it's tough. But to get to the final two and then things like that, but those are special times, you know, and with special people.
And that's why we're talking about it 20-some years later.
Yeah.
You know,
and
30-some years later.
And then there's genuine concern about family. You know, my wife's going through some issues, and them guys all in a text or whatever will reach out and how's she doing, you know, and ask about it. And that's just, not everybody's like that. You don't come across, you know, salt of the earth people like that.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate it. Maybe we'll get you back on, and because
No,
I
it
know
was
there's
good.
a lot more.
I know we
so.
talked about doing a little roundtable thing with, if you can get
Yeah,
a
we'll
number
do
of coaches, that would be, I think,
Yeah.
a neat thing to hear some other people's, you know, thoughts and perspectives. Maybe we looked at it a little different than they looked at it, you know
Sure.
what I mean?
Absolutely.
And
To be announced.
to be
There
announced.
you go.